The prank that made my friend's family move overnight and he never knew it was me. Original post. Alright, so picture this. It's the mid-90s, I'm a middle schooler, and pranking my friends are practically a hobby. One Friday, I was hanging out with a couple of my buddies. Let's call them Derek, Jamie, and Sam. We were riding bikes after school, just goofing around when Derek suggested we make a quick stop by his place so he could feed a dog. I had read about a genius prank in Mad magazine, and suddenly I knew exactly what I wanted to try. The prank was classic. You lift the toilet tank lid, position the fill hose just right so it sprays water at the person who flushes it. Since the water doesn't fill the tank, the float bulb won't rise, so the water keeps spraying until someone turns it off or fixes the hose. It was foolproof, or so I thought. As we got close to Derek's house, I put on my best desperate act. "Man, I really need to use the bathroom," I said, pretending to squirm. Derek told me no problem. He just needed to let the dog out and give it food and water. But then he said something that threw a wrench in my plans. To be honest, I need to go too. I panicked a bit. If he went before me, my prank was ruined. Luckily, he let me go first. I practically bolted upstairs, holding myself for dramatic effect, and Derek pointed me down the hall to the bathroom. Once inside, I lifted the toilet tank lid, positioned the hose just right, and closed it back up, picturing Derek's reaction as water would spray out. I went back downstairs, trying to look as casual as possible. A minute later, Derek ran up to use the bathroom, while the rest of us waited with our bikes outside. He came back down like nothing happened, so we hopped on our bikes and rode to the park. I tried fishing for any sign that he'd noticed the water, saying, "Man, you took long enough." He just shrugged, said he'd let the dog out and took a quick piss, and that was that. No mention of any water, no reaction at all. After a while, I forgot about it as we spent the day hanging out. Even got to chat with a girl I'd have a massive crush on. Life was good. Then came Monday. During class, I noticed Derek looked a bit out of it. After lunch, the PA system crackled, calling him to the office and announcing he'd be leaving for the day. He looked confused, grabbed his stuff and left. The whole class heard him grabbing things from his locker outside. But then he didn't come back the next day, or the day after that. In fact, he didn't come back at all. We all wondered what the hell had happened. Finally, Sam, who was pretty tight with Derek, broke the news. Derek had moved away, just like that. My heart dropped. Derek was one of my closest friends, and it didn't make any sense. Sam explained that Derek's parents had been out of town that weekend, leaving him to check on the dog. Apparently, when Derek had gone to the bathroom, he flushed without noticing anything, and the prank went into full effect. The water kept spraying out all day Friday, then all through Saturday and Sunday, flooding the entire bathroom, then the hallway, and eventually causing the ceiling to collapse into the living room, and water to completely flood out the main floor and basement. When Derek's parents came home on Monday, they found the aftermath of the disaster. They had no choice but to pick up and leave, as their house, which was already on the verge of being condemned, was now finished for sure. The house has been taken down. I felt my stomach drop and my face go pale as it all clicked together. My harmless prank had basically destroyed their entire house, and I was the reason he and his family had to pull plug and move away. He was a good friend to me. I never told anyone the truth, and I still feel a pang of guilt every time I think about it. I never saw Derek again. Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. So how come Derek didn't notice the carnage at any point during the weekend? Didn't he go home after hanging out? Where was he staying? How did the dog manage with only being let out once in 72 hours? I'm very baffled. He was actually staying with his grandma that weekend and would only swing by to feed a dog, who had a little setup out in the backyard. The dog food was kept in the back entrance, so we never even went fully inside the main house after that first day. I've thought about this so many times, and the details still blow my mind. But yeah, the house was definitely destroyed by the time his parents got home. This is the greatest use of the sub I have ever seen. It's a real sliding doors moment you caused for someone else. Could you track him down? Find out how his life played out. Maybe it was better off. I've definitely thought about reaching out, but honestly, the anxiety always kicks in hard. I can't shake the feeling that his life probably didn't improve after that incident. His family didn't have a lot of money, and looking back, it was a pretty big mistake on my part. The thought of trying to reconnect and potentially reopening old wounds is a tough one to wrestle with. Still, a part of me wonders where life took him after all that. Man, I know you feel guilty already, but holy crap, this is really bad. Yeah, it's so bad, right? Like, as an adult now, I can see how truly devastating that prank was. He ruined people's lives. Financially ruining a family over a prank. Yeah, I don't know if I would be able to look at anyone in the face again after learning what happened. The intention was never to actually financially ruin anybody, but to harmlessly spray water at one of my friends. Definitely not something I ever thought would happen. Mini update. Honestly, the reactions to this have been not that surprising, and not in a good way. People are saying I deserve terrible karma or even worse, blaming me for supposedly ruining an entire family. Some even go as far as to suggest my prank could have caused someone to spiral into addiction or something even darker. It's wild to see this level of anger over something I did as a 6th grader, when I was just a dumb, immature kid trying to pull a prank. A lot of people are saying I should reach out and apologize, but the truth is, I don't even have social media like Facebook or Instagram to try and track him down. And I want to be clear, this was never meant to harm anyone. It was just a prank I'd read about, and I didn't think through the consequences. Now looking back, I realize how serious it turned out to be, and it's something I've regretted for years. The hate and accusations I'm seeing here make it sound like I set out with some evil plan to destroy a family, which is just insane. I was a kid. I messed up, and I'm genuinely sorry for the damage it caused. But at this point, all I can do is acknowledge my mistake and try to move on, even if some people think that's not enough. And to Derek, if by some crazy chance you're reading this, I just want to say I'm sorry. We were young and dumb, as I'm sure you remember. From shooting each other with BB guns to jousting with sticks on our bikes, to launching Roman candles and bottle rockets at each other, we did some pretty crazy stuff. But this prank went too far, and I genuinely regret the mess it caused. I never meant for it to be more than a harmless joke, but it ended up way bigger than I could have imagined. I'm truly sorry for how it all turned out, and I hope life has been kind to you since. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my late husband's mom any of the life insurance money after she paid for his funeral? My husband and I were both in our early 40s, married for 6 years, when he passed away suddenly a few months ago. It's been the hardest thing I've ever faced, and honestly, I've just been trying to survive each day since. Right after he died, his mom, my mother-in-law, stepped in and insisted on paying for all the funeral expenses. I was completely out of it, just in a fog, and really grateful for the help. Here's the thing, I totally forgot that my husband had a small life insurance policy through my job. I only remembered it recently and filed a claim, getting a payout. It's not a huge amount of money, but enough to help me move back across the country to be with my family and maybe put something down on a modest home so I can start over. When my mother-in-law found out about the insurance payout, she flipped out. She's demanding I pay her back for the funeral costs and accusing me of using her son. She said some really hurtful things, calling me selfish and implying I'm somehow profiting off his death. But she offered to pay for the funeral, and I truly didn't know about the insurance money at the time. I'm still so broken over losing him, and the thought of being cold heartless just adds to the pain. I know she's grieving too, but I'm trying to do what's best for me to heal and move forward. So, am I the a-hole if I don't give her the money? I'm already barely holding it together and just need a chance to rebuild my life. I'm ready, I hope, to handle the criticism that may be coming my way. Everyone sucks here. When you found out that you were going to be getting a payout from the insurance company, in my opinion, you should have let her know and offered to pay her back for the funeral expenses. Whether she chose to accept it or not is up to her, but I think the right thing would be to at least offer, even if some time had passed by that point. Sounds to me though like she said some pretty cruel stuff. Seems like she crossed the line. On the plus side, you probably won't have to talk to her ever again anyways. Fair point. In just a few comments I've seen so far, you all have made points that I feel I would normally think of / work through, but my brain is just not there yet. Flight or fight mode, I think. Also think of the fact she lost her son. No one is in the best headspace. Seems fair to just give her half of the funeral expenses if you can, then cut all contact with her since you have no children. She crossed a line with her insults that can never be fixed or retracted. In other words, she showed her true nature. Don't forget mother-in-law is grieving too. I am child-free, so will never know what it is like to lose a child. But even losing an adult child must be a horrific experience. Mother-in-law stepped up to deal with the funeral expenses when OP was too out of it to deal with this aspect of her husband's death. The name calling is vile, but mother-in-law is hurting too. And I can see how she feels used now that she finds out OP got a pretty decent sum in insurance. You're the a-hole, to be honest. You should at least give her some of the money. Both of you are grieving, and it's common for people who are grieving to be a bit, not selfish, but self-centered as a way to protect themselves. I don't think you are a selfish person, but you are only thinking about yourself, which is understandable in a crisis. Here's the thing, funerals are not cheap, and his mother had to pay for the funeral and was supporting you. The least you can do is reimburse her. I am genuinely sorry for both of your losses, and I hope that the relationship was not damaged by this misstep, as you both will need each other. It's okay if you need to tell her that you needed to hear from some peers to realize the mistake. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he chose between me and his fiancée when he prioritized her surgery over mine? I, 17 female, have had a rocky relationship with my dad. My parents married after I was born, hoping to provide a stable family for me, but they divorced when I was 11 after my dad went to rehab, and things only worsened from there. During rehab, he met his current fiancée and they later had a kid, 6 female. Since then, my dad has been mostly absent from my life. Whenever I have important events, he either has an excuse or doesn't show. I'd estimate he's been present for less than half my events since their divorce. A few years ago, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, and initially surgery wasn't needed. However, my condition got worse, and I was finally scheduled for surgery on September 20 of this year. I told my dad about it months ago, expressing how much I needed his support this time, and he promised to be there. But later, he texted to say he'd planned a vacation that would keep him away until mid-December, just as my recovery period would be ending. It broke my heart, but I accepted it. Then, 2 hurricanes hit his vacation spot, and he told me he'd make my surgery. I felt a glimmer of hope, but then just a week before my surgery, he texted again saying his fiancé's lung cancer surgery had been scheduled for the same day, a few hours before mine, at a hospital 30 minutes away. He said he might not make it to my surgery. But with him, might not usually means won't. He added that this wasn't about who he loved more. That message shattered me. I realized that no matter how much I hoped, he might never give me the attention and support I needed. I broke down in my kitchen floor that day. After sitting with my feelings, I texted him to tell him how deeply his actions hurt me. I said it wasn't only about love, but about showing care, and that he'd given me hope only to let me down again. I questioned if his fiancé's surgery had really been scheduled last minute, or if he had known earlier but hadn't told me. I asked him to show he was my dad through his actions, not just his words. He responded, insisting the surgery was only scheduled the day he'd told me. But because he lied in the past to save face, I reached out to someone who might know the truth. I then sent a follow-up message, clarifying that my frustration wasn't with his fiancée. It was with his ongoing absence and lack of support. I said that even if his reasons were genuine, he could have at least shown some empathy. I told him I'd hoped he'd be a better father for my half-sister than he has been for me. In a final message, I made it clear that I was done putting in all the effort to maintain our relationship on my own. I told him that if he wanted to be my dad, I would gladly be his daughter, but if he chose not to, I would be fine with that too. He hasn't responded, and honestly, I'd prefer he sit with what I've said. For once, I hope he really thinks about his actions and the impact they've had on me. So, am I the a-hole? Girl, your father hasn't shown up for you your entire life. What makes you think he is going to do it now? And furthermore, why do you allow him to have that power over you? He is not your father. He is the male who impregnated your mother. Stop elevating him to father status. This man is going to support the person he is making his life with, not the child he walked away from years ago. He doesn't prioritize you, and he never will, no matter what words he uses or promises he makes. Good luck with your surgery and focus on your recovery. Thank you, I will. Lung cancer surgery for fiancé trumps daughter who still has mom scoliosis surgery. But otherwise, from what you've said about his reliability, not a-hole. Maybe send fiancé a note wishing her luck. And if it was a lie, crap will hit the fan. No way. If I had to choose between my daughter and husband, I would 100% choose my daughter. Why? 1. My husband is an adult. 2. Me being at the hospital while he had surgery would not change the outcome of the surgery, so the severity does not matter. 3. Both surgeries could go wrong. If I had to choose whose smile I would see for the last time, it's my daughter's. 4. I love my husband very much. He is the love of my life. But it cannot be compared to how I feel about my daughter. Would I sacrifice my own life to save my husband? I don't know. Would I sacrifice my own life to save my daughter's life? Yes, without any doubt. Just let me know where to sign and it's done.